Thank you. Now the very difficult task has been put upon me. The session is on practicing integral philosophy. Now, integral philosophy, we are hearing for these last 3 days from various levels, from various perspectives about integral philosophy. And also we have heard something about how that integral philosophy has been put to practice. But actually, is there any method? Can we suggest any methodology in which this integral philosophy can be practiced? Now, so far Sri Aurobindo is concerned and Mother is concerned, we find that yoga that has been considered to be one of the ways. But again, if we come to yoga, that is also a very difficult idea, and it is not something that is to be practiced only by a yogi sitting tightly closed in a tightly closed room. In fact, yoga, if it is understood in a very wide sense, it includes all sorts of work or activity with a definite intention, with a definite goal. So today, before I enter into any other further discussion on this topic, I would request, I would request also audience to respond to this question, to provide their responses to this question. So,
yes, Lalit, Lahoti.
Okay, thank you. I appreciated all the talks, and in reference to the king has been dethroned, what Reddy said, you know, I was thinking that the psychic or the soul is 1/5 of the human system. Then you have the mind, the vital, the physical, and the mental. So many times I think, you know, to reestablish that king or to put him back on the throne in practical, you know, how to approach it practically, you know, is very challenging. And then when I think of how all three of you spoke, and, you know, on the earth or with, you know, going against these other forces like mind, physical, the other 5, it might be difficult. And, you know, just practically, like if you think of the Dalai Lama or people who have lived, you know, I'm thinking of it practically, or, you know, in my own personal life. So I was thinking, for me, it's getting comfortable with, you know, sharing my life, or even in a microsphere, like with my family, or with friends, or with people who are not in yoga, or not in, you know, and getting more and more comfortable with who I am in these groups, because all of us come here, you know, of our own, or we just gravitate and we're there, but all the other people who we interact with might be totally divorced, you know, from our life or whatever. So I don't know if it's a comment or it's a question, you know, because in taking an action plan, for me it seems like sharing more, or like Valdemir said something about, I don't know, he said something like sharing, or I don't remember the exact words, but that's what I'm thinking lately. So I just...
Actually, I'm glad the 3 speakers on delving on philosophy. For the first time, I could see 3 shades of philosophy, but I was reminded of Pierre Hadot, a French philosopher, who has been telling that for the first time, philosophy is again becoming the true definition of philosophy is philosophy should be a way of life. And Aurobindo again said, the yoga is nothing but the life itself. So in that context, I feel many a time philosophy has been reduced to be a theoria or a theory, something to do with metaphysics. But Pierre Hadot, a French philosopher, was trying to say, okay, look, this was not the case even with the Greek philosophers. They wanted, actually to transform the life. The very purpose of philosophy is not to build a theory, but for the first time again we are realizing that it should have its effect. That is, it should become a way of life. In that context, today when I could see three shades, one, as he said, the Vedas actually was invoking for that. Much of the God, much of the Indian philosophy has come out of the threads of that quarter. So therefore, to that extent, I find, well, Vladimir's presentation was one of the good. It needs to be continued in the tradition of true philosophy. And Madam, as moral ardor. Actually, moral ardor is a very tricky issue because it keeps changing as time keeps changing, and moral ardor is linked with our state of knowledge as a collective as well as individual. So when the state of knowledge keeps changing, as the newer things come into being, the older becomes obsolete. But somehow, again, this paradigm which you were talking of evil is a problematic problem to Indian philosophy, because Indian philosophy had no equivalence to evil. So, see, it's totally Semitic. This became very clear. I think I'll take one more minute. When Hegel explained that there are two types of religion, because in his analysis he made this, there are subjective religions, objective religions. Objective religions depend on their concept of God, on the revelation. And in India, these are the subjective revelation. My awareness of God comes to me from my subjective experience. So in that context, our religions are different. And the subjectivity is a very typical, it is a metaxy. We are in between. We don't know our origins, we don't know our end. So much of the philosophy is our religion is trying to answer this question. And this is what I will say. Okay, look, the difference between philosophy and religion is religion tends to be dogmatic, and philosophy always remains outside and looking at the truth from the experiential point of view, from the dogmatic point of view. So in that context, the third one, trying to recover. Now this is what archaeology of knowledge is all about. Michel Foucault was talking. These are the artifacts, very old artifacts. Because when we come across an artifact of the ancient time, only the material, the dead body is there. And we try to recover the meaning in that. And for that, this is what archaeology of knowledge is all about. What was the intent? Why this particular Upanishad or book has been written? What it said is very important, and what it is not saying is also very important. So only this exercise that Aurobindo did at the end of part is one of the greatest exercises. We could recover some of the old artifacts which have, due to the time lag or whatever it may be, the meaning was lost. We are trying to recover. So and this recovery of meaning takes place in the context of my state of knowledge now. And this state of knowledge is not the ultimate. And Aurobindo was one person, a great person, who could reveal all these things. And that is the reason what we say in Indian context, the great hermeneutic possibility. Because the West also is trying to cope with this, and Aurobindo opened up, and the greater the variety that we have, the greater the unity. Today we are more worried because the variety is there, it is causing us some kind of discordance or something. But the greater the variety, if you achieve a greater unity, that will be the most beautiful unity. So I thank all the presenters. I don't have any questions. These are my comments.
Thank you. In fact, we would like to hear from the audience on the question, what are some common misunderstandings of integral philosophy and how to avoid those? If anybody likes to respond to this question.
Madam, as such, as on today, I have no problem with my life. All is well. I'm the blessed one by the mother's grace and with good quotation, even though I have not seen them. The quotation was, have faith and he will do everything for you, has settled the life. But in the beginning, when I was a child, reading some books, sitting in my room, people were misunderstanding me. My parents were thinking that perhaps I may be the saint, I may perhaps leave the society. Later on part, even my social life was disturbed. My wife was not able to understand me. The process which was taking place, I do not know, because the quotation I was remembering, have faith and he will do everything for you. I was just keeping patient, and the time has come. All is well. But my problem is, up to what extent we have to suffer this criticism.
Hello. For integration, one has to understand the individual, the collective. One has to understand that each element to integrate. First thing, one has to find oneself. One has to understand oneself to integrate into the collective. That's where the problem lies and the solution also lies.
I've been asked for the audience response regarding some common misunderstandings with regard to integral philosophy. I would like Anand Bhai to, and of course the learned panelists, to throw some light on some of the common misunderstandings which come up. For instance, one is that all life is yoga is commonly understood as meaning that one can continue doing whatever one did as before, and it's a yoga automatically, naturally, spontaneously. The second misunderstanding is that because the supermind has descended, there is no need of yoga at all. Automatically, as Sri Aurobindo put it in a letter, that cats and dogs and men all will become supramentalized. The third is that the cells will get transformed without any need of any psychic emergence and the spiritual consciousness descending. Now, I feel these are very, very serious misunderstandings, and they are not my misunderstanding. They are there in Sri Aurobindo's letters, in his correspondence, where he has abundantly clarified all these things, including the famous one where he says the goal of this yoga is not to become a superman or a great yogi, but to live in the divine consciousness, so that we don't become aggrandized egos rather than being humble yogis. So these are just a few things I thought if you could clarify, it would be really nice.
I will just add another question, because which is frequently people ask. I have been asked this question number of times by Ramakrishna Mission monks, that how can an individual bring down a big power like an overmind or supermind? How is that possible? So I would like you to respond to that also.
Two of them have raised this, whether there's really a divide between the life, mind, body and soul. There's a feeling that there's a divide. So we need to address how they're actually together and how the ministers can be under the influence of the king, the soul.
Yes.
I have one question. I would like if we could speak a little about the topic of unity and diversity. How much is the scope for this diversity? I am very happy to know that everything is well inside of the Aurobindonian family, but my experience in Auroville is that it's not so good. And there are problems. I would like to mention one. Some months ago, we had a controversy with the book of Peter His, the life about the biography of Sri Aurobindo. I have to say that this book I don't like personally much. It has a number of problems. I was surprised because I was reading another books of Peter, and frankly, the level and and the books were quite good. This book I didn't like so much. But after reading the book, I discovered that the reactions of many members of this family were disproportionate, were unbalanced, were exaggerated. And I discovered little by little that even it was a witch hunt. And about witch hunts, I have some experience in Auroville. I have seen several. And this, for me, is a black spot today. Has not been solved, has not been even tackled openly between different people, and to say what can we learn from this experience. Because this is not going to be the last time that inside of unity of faith or whatever you want to talk about this, maybe the action of AUROBINDO, because it's not a system, it's not even a philosophy, closed philosophy, it's not dogmatic, it's an open action. These things will happen again. So how can we learn about these lessons and try to avoid the problems that we have been facing in the last months, and to have a more deep understanding, more tolerance between us? How are we going to avoid this kind of differences? How are we going to tackle and to discuss this kind of differences between all of us? Because the problems are there. And frankly, I am not satisfied with the answers that has been given until now. And this is a problem for all the Aurobindo family.
Larry, you wanted to say something?
No, I just had another kind of philosophical question that you might address. And it has to do with that if the divine is behind all that happens in the world, I mean, what is our role to question or for action? What is our role? Why not just, let the divine, take care of it? Or so I think that's a, kind of a fundamental question for bringing the philosophy into our life, and it's the issue, well, should we just be passive and just allow things to be and the divine is taking care, or how do we act in that situation?
In the book, other group for superior humanity is telling that the responsibility is more on the sort of women. What's the special job we have to do?
It's a very deep misunderstanding amongst the people. Is it really possible for this world to change? The past very clearly tells us that if we go by the past, we feel that nothing is really possible. And what we consider it as a fact, others don't even believe as a philosophy that the supramental has descended as a physical principle and will transform matter. In other words, transform man, leading to physical immortality. Everybody calls this a big, tall order. That is not possible. So when we do speak, and we all have the very polite people who listen to us, so they might just keep quiet. But they go back home with the feeling that this is not going to be. Of course, there are letters from various devotees to Sri Aurobindo where he speaks of, this is something that we have to, all of us come across this.
Yes.
Starting from where?
Maybe we could start a little kind of reflecting on them before we continue with questions. Or we can have a question session also, which is very good not to answer these questions. Because having them is something valuable for us. Answers would not really reach. What would you do with answers? If I would tell you, no, we are going to change, everything is going to be fine. I assure you. So what would you do with this answer? Will you be satisfied?
Actually, it will be a search for answers. We cannot provide any conclusive answer. Because
exactly.
Yes, Alok, you want to say
No,
something?
but-
You want to answer some questions, I suppose.
Just one brief quick comment that we are evolving and much of evolution takes place under the clash of forces. It's inevitable because the world has to be ready for the unity based on truth and harmony, but not the human truth and the human harmony. So when we evolve, it's bound to come through a clash of forces, and if each of one can act in the highest light and the deepest inspiration, no matter, doesn't matter what it is, it may not be the best right or the highest truth, but our own highest Swadharma, and we offer it as an offering to the yagna, automatically out of that things will be purified individually and collectively, and the new harmony will emerge. This is how, in a very small way, I understand, because if we try to have a debate discussion, this is right, this, it doesn't work out. So we need to, all of us, this also takes on, because it's really a confusion that all is the divine, all is done by the divine will, so does the individual have a role or not? So each individual acts according to his highest and does it in an offering. Now whether he is doing it or not, only in his sincerity and to the divine it will be known. There is no outer yardstick of it. If he is sincere, he will grow no matter what. If he is not, even if he is saying beautiful things, he is the one who will suffer and he will, go back. So I think I would just take on.
There is an interesting insight into this. We are all looking for some kind of harmony and oneness, and which is when it is not really true. Yes, it can be created by the mind, by mechanical means, by organization of life in such inferior form, where the truth aspect of the inner aspect of the truth is not yet revealed or manifested. That harmony has to be demolished. That's why Krishna came. Krishna came to destroy dharmas. Dharmas which were not sufficient anymore for the embodiment of that inner truth which is to come out. That's why we are not happy with our, so to say, happiness. Our happiness is inferior, of inferior kind. The deeper truth is to conquer this world, and it won't be without battle, and without suffering, and without shift of paradigms. And the book of Peter Hees is one of those battles where we all go through. We are all involved in some way or another. It's a Kurukshetra, and it is legitimate for us. So we have to accept it and to look for the truth rather than, preliminary harmony, which we want to establish too soon without finding the truth.
You already said half of what I wanted to say. I have a very strong feeling also, I'm Aurobind, and we have a lot of problems, which is conflicts and conflicts. And what I feel then, all the answers are within. And AUROBIND always say, we know it, all of it. But we are built with our eyes looking outside. Outside, and some of Upanishads say then, what can we do if our eyes are looking outside and we reflect everything what we see, and we are going in conflict with outside, forgetting that all the answers are within. We have to turn our eyes within, and there are answers. We have banyan problem in matrimony. What should we do? I love this person and I love another person and I would like to take sides, but I don't want to take sides because my inner says no sides. Now we have a conflict which brings on the surface everything, whatever we have to solve and see in ourselves the wrong things, you know. There are no sides, Giuseppe. We cannot, I mean, towards this Peter Heathwood, we have a conflict in Orville. You know, you feel yourself sincere towards yourself, what you feel towards the book. You say, okay, I don't like this. It doesn't respond to my heart, doesn't respond to my mind. Why he's speaking of Aurobindo like this? I don't feel this, you know. It's a guru, it's somebody who brought the truth to the earth. He's only one in the world like that. Not recognized yet, totally, but by India, by the world. And we are here who follow him. And we love his truth. And we feel inside our hearts, yes, that's it. I know it is like that. And who else can tell you? Peter Heath can tell you then something is wrong. He's talking maybe not that English, or maybe whatever is there behind, you feel, and it's true. So when I think it's the only thing and only correct within what we can rely on. That's what I want to say. We are the stage and we are the player of the games here. People who have psychic, and our work only to concentrate on that. Like this world will be changed. Do not look others. Do not look what others do, what world is towards do. So this is my feeling. Thank you.
Yeah. I just wanted to add some weight to the misconceptions which Alok Bhai has pointed out and Pradeep Bhai has said. I do move around it a little bit all over India, and I do find the same questions coming up. What is happening in the world? What is happening in India? What has Sri Aurobindo to offer for them? And we are happy in saying all we have heard or we have learned, but they don't buy it. They don't buy that. And here, closer home, I feel when this yoga is all about collectivity, what is our conduct and behavior amongst ourselves, with each other? Does it indicate to us something? We're all doing individual yogas. We learn a lot. We are happy, individually stand fulfilled. But then what happens? Our own progress, we have to recognize. Somebody, I think yesterday, Alok Bhai said, there needs to be detected. And if we do look into this, when Sri Aurobindo said that I think I can say, I have tested all my life that the work is not, founded on just faith alone. He has tested this all along, day and night for years. And he thinks he can say that it is more meticulous, or exact words, if you please can correct me, than any scientist, his physical theory in the world. What are these? What are the tests he has done? Why? If all the knowledge, as I've been hearing, is always like it's all within you, fine. Then what? After you have done experiences of, 20 years or 30 years of yoga, what is the net outcome? Where is it reflected? There is a misconception that, okay, mother will take care, Sri Aurobindo will take care, you just do. And if somebody approaches you, you're not interested. Where does it culminate all? In your behavior, how you treat your fellow human being. Is that a misconception that no, we don't have to worry about anybody else? The basic humanity. Hindi mein kehte hain insaniyat. By getting into Sri Aurobindo's deeper and deeper, it should make us more sensitized. And are we just losing? That's a very fundamental question. I hope I've not triggered any emotions around. But we need to really have a check whether how we behave with our other human fellow beings.
We would end this on this soul-searching mode. Madam, would you please summarize the session, please?
Thank you. This was really a session where we shared our anguish and anxiety, and we look to Sri Aurobindo and Mother for optimism. Thank you.